Well, good morning, church. This morning we're going to be beginning to close out the book of Jonah, beginning in chapter 4. And so what just happened is he had gone into Nineveh, and what we see is he really only half-heartedly is even preaching that message that God told him to. It tells us that Nineveh is a 3-day journey, yet Jonah only goes 1 day in and then heads out. So he doesn't even really try to share the message with the people of Nineveh. But as Pastor Brandon talked about, they hear his message and repent, and they turn around and they cry out to God for forgiveness. And it tells us that God did, in fact, show them mercy by not just destroying them like he originally planned on. Well, we're going to read Jonah's response to that today. So starting in verse 1 of chapter 4, it says, Jonah was greatly displeased and became furious. He prayed to the Lord, "Please, Lord, isn't this what I said while I was still in my own country? That's why I fled toward Tarshish in the first place. I knew that you were a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger, abounding in faithful love, and one who relents from sending disaster. Now, Lord, take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live." Talk about a ridiculous reaction. I mean, this guy who's supposed to be a prophet of the Lord sees God showing his mercy and grace to this whole nation of people, which was probably around 120,000 people. And yet his response is he's mad they weren't punished, that God didn't destroy them. It's also interesting because if we look back to chapter 2, he was praising God for being merciful because it saved him. If God hadn't been merciful like that, Jonah tried to run from him. God could have just let him die in the water, but instead he saved him by letting him be swallowed by that giant fish and spit out. And in that giant fish or whale or whatever it was, Jonah thanked God for that same characteristic. I think a lot of times we're similar to Jonah, whether we want to admit that or not. That, man, we're thankful when God shows us mercy, but there's other times, man, you want that person to face that consequence. They deserve that. Well, unfortunately, we all deserve that. And so we need to be thankful for God's mercy, for his grace, especially when we see how it impacts other people. Look at how this nation changing the way they did, that had to have such a big impact on the people around as well, that to recognize, wow, they turned around their lifestyles all because this God told them to, and he was merciful towards them for it. What a powerful witness it can be when we get to see that kind of transformation. So we're going to get to see how God responds to Jonah tomorrow.